Hi, I'm Sophie from SAM Labs. Thanks for joining us today. If you guys have any questions throughout the video, feel free to enter it in the chat, and then I'll get to them at the end. So kind of the goal of this video is to get you guys feeling comfortable with using our blocks and integrating them with our SamSpace app. And the materials I'm going to use are 2 DC motors, a light sensor, an RGB LED, and then we're also going to be building a car. We'll need our yellow car chassis, our wheels, our little rolly ball, and then I'm also going to be using this little guy. And what this is, it's a Lego connector. So you can put our blocks inside and then attach it to any Lego, and it's really cool because you can go ahead and bring all of your Legos to life. So first off is I'm going to show you kind of around the app and how to turn on and pair your blocks. So we're going to head over to the SamSpace app. All right. So kind of the first things you will notice on the app are there's 3 different little tabs. So we have our input section. Inputs are essentially things that will be collecting data. We'll have our outputs, and the outputs are things that will be receiving that data and producing an outcome. And then our behaviors, which will be changing the action of the output. So I'm currently logged in, and when you're logged into the SamSpace app, you'll be able to save all your projects. So right here I have a bunch. If you aren't logged in, unfortunately, you can only get access the last project you worked on. And then also in this toolbox view, you'll be able to see that there is an option for STEAM lessons or advanced. And what that does is if you have it on advanced, it'll unlock all of the different behaviors. Whereas on STEAM lessons, we'll limit the amount of behaviors to all of the ones that are only in the lesson plans. And then what I'm gonna have you guys do is turn on those virtual blocks. And essentially the virtual blocks will allow you to use the blocks without actually physically having them. So it's really great to do kind of the coding before you actually pull out the physical blocks, or have kids do it for homework and whatnot, and they can pre-code. So just to show you, if I have a little virtual button, and if I press the top of that button, you'll see that the button will actually mimic what I'm doing. So now I'm going to first start with our light sensor and our LED. So you'll see that on the block, there'll be a SAM. And above that SAM, you'll see a little button right there. So we're gonna hold that down for about a few seconds, and then it'll turn red. And then you can see that there's that plus sign, and above it, there's gonna be a pulsating blue circle. So we're gonna click Connect Blocks. And the block will show up, and the closer you have it to the screen, that signal is gonna be stronger. So I'm gonna click Pair. I'm gonna click that check mark, and then it'll turn white when it's paired. Now, just a tip, I wouldn't have you guys be in a room full of people. I wouldn't have you guys pairing at the same time. I would suggest taking turns with different groups, because kind of weird to have them all interacting at once. So I'm gonna do the same thing and pair the RGB LED. And we're gonna, again, click the check mark, and it'll turn white. So now the blocks will show up on the screen. You'll see that the light sensor goes into inputs, and then you'll be able to see the RGB LED in the output section. So we're gonna go ahead and drag them and drop them on. And you can see that they have individual colors on the circles, and then the blocks will essentially match those colors. So that filled in circle is going to be telling you that it's an input, and that outline circle is going to be telling you it's an output. So you always connect the input to the output. And what that number is on the top of the light sensor, so it's basically detecting the amount of light in the room. So if I put my hand over it, that number goes down to 0, and then if I take it off, that number will go up, and it can go all the way up to 100. And since I have them connected, now the LED will react to whatever I do to the light sensor. So it'll turn off if I have it completely to 0, and then it'll get brighter as the numbers go up. So each of the blocks have a lot of different functions for themselves that you can customize. So on the light sensor, you're gonna be able to change it from a light sensor, which is a 0 to 100 sensor, or to a button, which is essentially just true or false. We're gonna keep it as a sensor right now and go in and customize our LED. And with the LED, what you can do is change the color. So I'm gonna change it to a purple. So now the light will be purple. So you can go ahead and customize that. And then we're gonna start out with going into different behaviors. So I'm gonna go over to the behaviors and scroll over to the compare block. So basically you can click on them and it'll have kind of a short explanation. If you need a more detailed explanation, there's Block Directory online, which will kind of give a deeper overview into it and show examples of how you can use it. So we're gonna drag that and we're gonna drop that right in the middle. So now you can see that the light turns off. And what that's telling you is that it will only turn on if it's equal to 60. So we're gonna tap that and we're gonna change this to a different value. So we're gonna say if it's less than, and we're gonna type in, let's say 20, then the light sensor will show. So right now it's less than 20, so it will turn. And then if I don't have my hand on it, it's over 20, so it's gonna turn off. So as I mentioned before, the light sensor has the ability to turn into a button. So we're gonna change it to a button. And now connect the two. So like I mentioned, if you put your hand over it, it's like pressing a button. And if you're taking your hand off, it's like you're not pressing it. So it's gonna react to that. And now I'm gonna add a behavior that I use all the time called the toggle. And the toggle acts as a light switch. So if you grab that and drop that in the middle, you'll see that if I put my hand over it, that little circle in the middle of the toggle will go to the right and the block will stay on. And then if I take my hand off, it'll turn off as the circle goes to the left. So once you got there, we're gonna go ahead and add a timing block. So if you look and notice, all of the blocks are kind of grouped into what they do. So I have a bunch of number ones right here. We have our time blocks, we have our logic gates, and then over there we have colors and whatnot. So we're gonna go in the time, and we're gonna pick something called the interval, and go ahead and drag and drop that into the middle. So now if I put my hand over it and turn it on, you can see it's flashing. Essentially, you can set the time you want, and it'll flash at whatever speed you have. So I'm gonna set it to go at, let's say, 500 milliseconds. So when I close this and go back to the screen, you can see that it is flashing faster. So it essentially does what you tell it to. So now we're gonna add a little bit more flavor to it. We're gonna add our RGB cycle colors. And the RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So if we put that in, now you'll see it'll be cycling through red, green, and blue. And it's actually very important how the behaviors are ordered into this. And to illustrate that, I'm gonna use something called our sound player. So I'm gonna get that from the outputs and drag that on. And basically your device will be producing the sound. So if I drag and drop the, directly from the light sensor to the sound player, it will only turn on every time I hold my hand there. So it doesn't really follow the light sensor. or the RGB LED. And then if I place it after the toggle, if you see what happens, if I put my hand over it, it will only turn on if I have that toggle to the right. Lastly, we're going to try putting it after the interval. So now it's going to change with the light, very annoying. And then let's try after the RGB. So now there's going to be no sound because the sound player is not going to be able to read color. I'm going to take that off. And you can change, of course, to all of them. There's customization. You can change the sounds. There's a lot of different ones like animals. From that, you can go ahead and change whichever animal you want. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And we're going to start working on our motors. So if you grab both your DC motors, we're going to, again, turn them on by pressing the top, going to the connect blocks, clicking pair, and I'm doing the same for this one, clicking pair, and we have that there. So now we just like the other ones, we're going to drag and drop that onto the screen. And now we're going to make the car. So you'll get your yellow chassis, and then if you get your rolly ball, you can just put that in that circle section. And then we're going to grab our DC motors, and you'll see how there's two little slots. We're going to place the DC motor over the slot and just push it in with the metal part sticking outwards. And we're going to do the same for the other one, like this. And then we're going to get those wheels, and based off the protruding part on the wheel, we're going to attach that to the metal thing that's sticking up. If you go ahead and be careful with those wheels and just place them on gently. I'm going to put that on there, and you have your car. So I'm going to have them connect to the toggle so that they'll turn, the motors will turn on and off. Okay. So if I direct my motor, you can see that it's spinning in a circle. And the reason why it's spinning in a circle is that if you look on here, the DC motors are opposites of each other. So we're going to need to go in and change the direction of one of them. So we're going to click on it and then change one from clockwise to counterclockwise. And now you'll have your car speeding off straight. And again, if you want to adjust the speed, you can just go ahead and click them manually and change that right here. And then some last things I want to share with you, there are some cool features directly in the inputs and outputs. You saw the sound player. There's also a little camera you can take pictures with. And then there's something called the key press. So the key press is just like a button, but you use the keys on your device to activate it. So let's connect to a virtual light sensor. So right now it says spacebar, so I'm using my spacebar to turn it on. And then you can also change it to different letters of the keyboard and use those as the button. And then the last really cool thing is we're going to have our car controller. And if you just disconnect the motors from the toggle, we're going to connect that to the car controller just like this. And see how there's those arrows? You basically can use your device to move the car forward or backwards on your arrow keys. And then if you actually have a device with an accelerometer, you can use it to steer it forwards, backwards, turning and whatnot. So it's really neat. It's a great tool. So that's kind of all I want to go over today. I don't really see too many questions, so if you have any more or you think of any more, just go on to our FAQ page and you'll be able to contact us via the chat or through forums or email us at support@samlabs.com. And then the FAQs are really good to kind of look at some questions that most people get. And then also, if you click on the Getting Started page, it has a lot of other resources for you guys. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks.